Good morning. Chilly morning. Welcome to First Parish in Needham, a Unitarian Universalist congregation of humanists, theists, atheists, agnostics, seekers, and interfaith families. I am Susan McGarvey. To learn about all that's happening at First Parish, go to our website, uuneedham.org. Sign up for the Bell Notes, our weekly email newsletter. You can also follow us on social media. Our order of service is online too at the QR code in your pews and at the website uuneedham.updates.church. Speak with our ushers and Zoom hosts if you have any questions or accessibility needs. At First Parish, we covenant to live out our shared values of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, respecting the earth, and co-creating beloved community. Whoever you are, whoever you love, whatever your background or identity, whatever your age or stage, whether you walked or rolled in, and wherever you're participating from, you are welcome here. In anticipation of the presidential election on November 5th, a group of us have taken action to get out the vote. We encourage people to join, and over 50 of us have engaged in sending postcards. We have responded to 19 different campaigns, reaching 8 states, some multiple times. Together, we have sent 22,000 postcards, which give information on how and where to register. All of us are experiencing anxiety about this election. For the next 3 Wednesday evenings, Reverend Katie and Dara will be leading sessions to help us practice calming, grounding techniques, listen to poetry and prayer, share with other first parishioners, and turn election anxiety into action through Get Out the Vote and other democracy-oriented efforts. Please join us. Welcome again to everyone here in the building and online. We're so glad you're here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dara Bryans, and I'm the ministerial intern here at First Parish in Needham. We light our chalice this morning with a reading from UU minister Reverend Lori Golgas Hlaban, and we will also be lighting a second candle in celebration of National Coming Out Day, which was on Friday, October 11th. Living with pride, we light the chalice flame for those who lived their lives in closets of shame, for those who furtively visited the bars where nobody knew your name, for the Stonewall riot and the fierce trans women who fought, for the plague which still takes far too many, too young, too soon. So many gone, so many never lived to see. Out gay kids singing on TV, out gay people serving in the military, marriage equality, families formed with intention. We light our chalice flame for all these and for all our siblings of the rainbow, surviving, living out life out in the open with pride. Our hymn this morning is Circle Round for Freedom. The words and music were written by Jewish singer-songwriter and cantor Linda Hirschhorn. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing Circle Round for Freedom. The lyrics are in your orders of service, on the screen, or at number 155 in the gray hymnals.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle
Good morning. Please join me in reciting our covenant this morning. We gather as a loving community to encourage and comfort one another. We gather as a diverse community to support each other in our search for spiritual truth. We gather as a service community to live our beliefs through action and care for our world.
Our Time for All Ages story this morning will start as soon as our first slide is up, but it's called Fry Bread, a Native American family story. There we go. And it was written by Kevin Noble Maillard and illustrated by Juana Martinez Neal. Fry bread is food: flour, salt, water, cornmeal, baking powder, perhaps some milk, maybe sugar, all mixed together in a bowl. Fry bread is shape. Hands mold the dough, flat like a pancake, round like a ball, or puffy like Nana's softest pillow. Fry bread is sound. The skillet clangs on the stove, the fire blazes from below. Drop the dough in the skillet, and the bubbles sizzle and pop. Fry bread is color: golden brown, tan, or yellow, deep like coffee, sienna, or earth, light like snow and cream, warm like sun's rays. Fry bread is flavor: see beans or soup, smell tacos, cheese, and vegetables, delight in honey and jam, rise to discover what brings us together. Fry bread is time. On weekends and holidays, supper or dinner, powwows and festivals, moments together with family and with friends. Fry bread is art. Sculpture, landscape, portrait, our daily craft. Shared from teacher to student, a cycle of heritage and fortune. Fry bread is history: the long walk, the stolen land, strangers in our own world. With unknown food, we made recipes from what we had. Fry bread is place: Alaska, Kansas, all the way to Maine, down to Delaware, on to Georgia, over to Oklahoma, Colorado, and California, cities and lands we call home. Fry bread is nation: Abenaki, Apache, Arapaho, Ojibwe, Onondaga, Oglala Sioux, Narragansett, Navajo, Nipmuc, Seminole, Shoshone, Sac, and Fox, hundreds and hundreds of tribes. Fry bread is everything: round, flat, large, small, north, south, east, west, brown, yellow, black, white, familiar and foreign, old and new, we come together. Fry bread is us. We are still here, elder and young, friend and neighbor. We strengthen each other to learn, change, and survive. Fry bread is you. And I'm wondering what y'all make of those last two questions. Fry bread is us, and fry bread is you. Do you have food that represents the culture of your family, where you came from? And I love this story because it reminds me of my grandmother, who taught me to make kifli. My great-grandparents came from Hungary. They never learned to speak English, but they could. My great-grandmother could bake. So every Christmas we still make kifli to remember our grandparents and great-grandparents. And food is one of the ways that we hang on to our culture and where we came from. And in our story, the people, they didn't come from somewhere else because they were already here before the United States even existed. But they need to remember their culture because over the centuries, our government has sought to erase them, their culture, their religion, their language. They were pushed off the land of their ancestors, and they had to live in areas foreign to them, their language and religion taken away. But fry bread is a food that nourishes not only their bodies, but their connections to who they are, which is why fry bread is history and color and sound, because it reminds them of the history of who they are and where they come from. It reminds them that First Nation people are diverse and that they have a language, a rhythm, and a sound all their own. And as we think today about Indigenous Peoples Day tomorrow, I'd like us to remember that they are still here. And maybe, just maybe, you'd like to spend a little bit of time learning about some of their history, their colors, and the sounds of these native nations. And now, as our children follow Priscilla and Lynn to their religious exploration opportunities, I invite you to join in singing Long Time Son as in your orders of service and on screen.
May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on. May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way on.
This is the time in our service when we share the joys and concerns that are close to our hearts and our minds. And for anyone not able to be here in the sanctuary with us on Sunday mornings, I am receiving candles, pre-submitted candles at candles@uuneedham.org by the Friday before the service. And if you are participating on Zoom or on YouTube, I encourage you to share your candle in the chat to be held by the community watching with you. I've got a number of pre-submitted candles. The first is because today or this week is World Mental Health Awareness Day. It was actually October 10th. And we light a candle of concern for all who suffer from mental illness. 1 in 5 people struggle with feelings of isolation and hopelessness. We light a candle of solidarity to say that you are not alone. And I'm going to light a candle of joy because our senior youth group did a backpacking overnight last night on I'm always going to get this mountain wrong. It's Greylock. I keep trying to call it another one. They're on Greylock. They did trail maintenance on the Appalachian Trail, and they did some shelter maintenance as well. And I'm just hoping they survived the night because it was cold last night. So I will, at the end, light a candle of joy for our youth on their overnight. We have a pre-submitted candle from Charles Thomas. It is a candle of empathy for the strong women and girls of Afghanistan who continue to suffer a lack of freedoms, including a ruling last month that their voices are not to be heard in public. And my final pre-submitted candle is from Laura Brown. Laura submitted a candle of concern because she has been in the hospital for the last 10 days or more, and she will be having a procedure, a cardiac procedure, done this week. She would love calls and visits. Please hold her in your heart and prayers. I'll light now 4 candles for all the pre-submitted. And now if you are here in the building and have a joy or concern to share, please come forward, light a candle, state your name, and if you'd like, please share your pronouns and briefly describe what is on your heart.
I'm Wendy Blum. I'm lighting this candle, thank you, for Deborah Niles. I just heard yesterday that she was thrown from a horse and fractured her sacrum. She's okay, she's going to be okay, but she's in a lot of pain right now, and I thought people would want to know.
Hi, my name is Lily Whitman. I'm sorry I don't have my name tag today. This is my last service for this month to be in person. Hopefully I'll be online for the next few weeks. I just got new glasses yesterday, so I'm still getting adjusted to them. I'm taking care of my dog this weekend and praying that my mom will arrive safely back from Hawaii tomorrow.
My name is Beth Sargent. This is a candle of joy, of celebration, and of looking forward. We start the 42nd season of the Homegrown Coffee House next Saturday. So it's pretty exciting. We have a great duo, the Lied Twos. That is a line from the Everly Brothers song. What is it? When Will I Be Loved? They're terrific. If any of you have a free Saturday night, we would love to see you there. I see some of our volunteers are here as well. The other part of the candle is of joy and still grief. It's almost 2 years ago that Jim passed away, and it is always on my mind. So, it's the balance of life. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Peter Panov, he, him. Just lighting a couple of candles of joy. I'm joyful for me that I recovered, got through COVID a couple of weeks ago and well enough to muddle through with my classes and then come visit over here now that I have break. I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I'm going to see my uncle. He's going to visit us at the end of the week. I'll overlap with him. I'm happy about that. He lives, on the other side of the world, so it's not every year that we get to see him.
I'm Lynn Jakowski. This is my first foray back into the world, into church this year. Since my back surgery in September, I just want to thank the community for all their support, their emails, their visits, the wonderful food. and my wonderful husband for all the support and care that he's given me. I'm doing really, really well. I just need naps, a lot of naps. But I hope to be back in church every Sunday now. Thank you all so much.
Hi, I'm Laura Nevitt, they and she pronouns. I just wanted to light a candle of concern for my mother who's having knee replacement surgery tomorrow. She's been having a lot of pain for a long time, so glad that she's having it, but prayers for her and thoughts for a good recovery.
And for all of the joys and concerns that remain silent in our hearts, I light a final candle. May the peace of this sanctuary be felt too wherever you are joining us from, as we remember that even though we are worshiping in different times and places, we are all still very deeply connected. As we enter into our time of meditation and prayer, I invite you to settle into your seat. Let go of all your busy to-do list items and be here now. Breathe with me in and out. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. God of many names, you who endowed us with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, let us remember this day that in this country there is no national religion, there is no superior race, there's no preferable gender or orientation. We gather holding a common value that the glory of this country rests first and foremost in its diversity. Out of many ideas, out of many beliefs, out of many views, out of many voices, out of many passions, out of many experiences, we are one. Help us to never forget that we need not be alike to live and love alike. We ask this day for forgiveness for our national and individual transgressions. When we have chosen inaction or silence in the face of injustice and abuse of power, and our failure to claim our own, we ask for forgiveness when we have not known our own neighbor, fed our hungry, or equipped our future generation with knowledge and love. We ask for a blessing on this nation according to our own faith and forms, and pledge our voice to support of moving closer and closer to freedom. These and the prayers of our hearts we pray now in silence. In the names of those who have come before and those who are yet to be, in the names of all the helpers and all of humankind. Amen. Please remain seated and join in singing our meditative response. It is number 357, Bright Morning Stars, because I couldn't let the choir have all that fun. We're only singing one verse.
Bright morning stars
That song is good for the soul. This congregation has been supported by the volunteered time and treasure of its members and friends since its founding in 1711. This is the time in our service when we, the modern stewards of this church, offer what we can to build and sustain the congregation and the world we envision. For the month of October, we'll be sharing our collection 50-50 with the Metro West Worker Center. The Metro West Worker Center, or CASA, is immigrant worker-led and organizes to defend and expand the labor, civil, and human rights of all workers in the greater Boston area. Based out of Framingham, the center serves a multilingual, multicultural worker community and partners with non-immigrant allies and professionals to fight unjust laws and practices such as wage theft and injured workers' compensation. This summer, Metro West Worker Center began a partnership with the Need Shelter Network, a local group which includes some of our First Parish members. They work through CASA, and the network is supporting 2 newly arrived Haitian families in the wake of Governor Healy's policy change to only house immigrant families for 5 days. The network is providing temporary housing, meals, transportation, and other support. To donate to today's offering, you can use one of 3 different methods as found in detail in your orders of service. You can use text to give, donate through our website, uuneedham.org, or drop a check or cash into the collection plate. Whatever way you give, please do specify whether your donation is for your pledge or for this morning's collection. If this is one of your first time visiting, please do fill out a yellow card in one of the seat backs and leave it in the collection plate. And many thanks to Judy Hadrick for the beautiful flowers given in memory of her close friend of many years, Judith Warren. Thank you for everything you are able to give to help sustain and support this congregation and the vital work of our community partners. May the ushers please come forward.
Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Coberly. I wrote our offertory piece, The Lake Isle of Innisfree, in April of 2020, at a moment where I, like many other people, was terrified that I would never get to sing with other people again. Eventually, I was able to sing that piece with my college choir. We did it masked, 6 feet apart, without a live audience. But it was still a really special experience to get to sing it with those people. Today is the second public performance of that piece, and it is the first one where I will be unmasked, standing shoulder to shoulder with other singers in front of real people.
Thank you. That was really beautiful. I was glad we got to be here to take part in hearing you sing it mask-free and with people. Our reading this morning comes from We Are Still Here, Native American Truths Everyone Should Know, and it was written by a member of the Cherokee Nation, Tracy Sorrell. Our Native nations have always been here. We are indigenous on this continent now called North America. Our leaders are sovereign and have power to make rules. Our ways of life changed when white people arrived from Europe. In 1776, white people broke free from England and created their own country called the United States of America, which affected our lives even more. Like European rulers before them, the leaders of the new US government signed legal agreements called treaties with our native nations. These treaties recognize the sovereignty of our native nations to exercise control and power over our own people and lands. But some treaties force native people to leave our homes or sell our lands where our ancestors lived. The US government made promises to native nations in almost 400 treaties altogether. But the federal government did not always keep its promises to the tribes. Most of the time, their laws and policies have been devastating. Most people do not know what happened to native nations and our citizens after treaty making was stopped in 1871. Despite continued occupation of our homelands, regular attacks on our sovereignty, and being mostly forgotten in US culture, native nations say, "We are still here." Here ends our reading. No land is ever empty. The teaching fellow of my Hebrew Bible class offered this reflection during my first semester of seminary. And he was referring to the land promised to the ancient Israelites by God. Over the years since that class, I have reflected often on the fundamental truth to this statement. Someone always lives on and has a relationship with the land. When Christopher Columbus came to America, he did not discover it. The land was not empty. He visited a place where people with a thriving and highly evolved culture already existed. When we Euro-Americans threw off the oppressive governance of England, we continued to make treaties with native nations. Some we honored, but many others we did not. The results of these treaties, both those honored and those broken, have been to dispossess the people of the native nations of their land. I want to take a quick aside here because you're going to hear me referring to native nations and indigenous peoples with different names and different words. I'm choosing ways of referring to them that the people themselves have said is acceptable. So I will call them either indigenous people or native nation or First Nation peoples. So my earliest memory are as a child in San Carlos, Arizona. San Carlos is an Apache reservation where my father worked as a young doctor in the public health service. We lived there for almost 2 years, actually for a little over 2 years. And one of my most vivid and earliest memories is of the burned grassland. The Apache people used fire as a management tool for their land. And it was a means of supporting the growth of desired plants and promoting biological diversity. But to my brother and me, this looked like a whole lot of fun. So we thought it would be great to roll down the hill of burned grass as it crinkled and crushed and crackled beneath our bodies. And it was all fun and games until my mother discovered us covered head to toe in soot. And I also remember being invited by our Apache neighbors to a ceremony It was a great honor to be invited since these ceremonies were sacred to them. I don't honestly remember what the ceremony was for, but I do remember the traditional dress, the drums and the dancing, the singing, the colors, the rhythm, the sounds. And I remember the barbed wire. The barbed wire that separated the Euro-Americans employed by the government from the Apache Nation people. And living on an Apache reservation led to many very interesting dinner table conversations when I was growing up. And they always began with my siblings and me asking, why? Why do they use fire to take care of the land? We were told never to play with fire. It made no sense to us. Why do the Apache live on reservations? Why did we, the Euro-Americans, push them off of their land into these reservations? These were really hard questions to face. They're hard enough today when we're much more aware of our history of settler colonialism, let alone in the 1960s and 70s when we still perpetuated the myth of manifest destiny. And if y'all don't remember from your grade school history and social studies classes, manifest destiny was the belief that God had preordained the Europeans, the settlers, now US citizens, that they should spread out across this land and claim it for God and for America. It was, in truth, a way to justify the forcible removal of indigenous peoples. And as a child, I needed a book like Native American Truths Everyone Should Know. Today, we're much more honest with ourselves as Americans about the truth of our treatment of indigenous peoples. We acknowledge that the Puritans and other colonial settlers did engage in violent warfare and the forcible removal of them from their land so that European settlers could occupy it. And in the 19th century, our government implemented a couple of policies called allotment and termination. Allotment was the government's attempt to end Native nations' understanding that the land is communal property. So they took the native lands and they divvied it up and they allotted each person a plot of land that they could own. But they didn't divvy up all the land, so that so-called surplus land, the unallotted land, the government sold. They sold it to railroad companies, land speculators, and Euro-American settlers. And in the 1850s, the government wanted to improve the general economy of this emerging nation, and they were hoping to create an educated working class. So to foster the formation of universities, agricultural and technology schools, they offered something called land grants. And land grants were lands taken from these indigenous peoples, from the native nations, and they were given to our states, they were given to private companies, if they promised to use the money from those lands to found universities. MIT is one such institution that received land in California. The native nations whose lands had been taken and given, they received little to often no payment for that land. Some of the land grant universities sold the land right away and used that as their seed money. Others developed the land, exploiting the natural resources, and some universities still retain ownership of that land today. Termination refers to a series of statutes in 1953 that President Dwight Eisenhower signed, terminating the sovereignty of many individual native nations, breaking treaties and moving land to US government control. And if that wasn't enough, taking the land and taking sovereignty, they also engaged in concerted efforts to dismantle culture and language and community of these native nations through policies of assimilation and relocation. We've been hearing in the news as what is coming to light about the boarding schools, that we took children from families and we put them in boarding schools to break their ties to parents and siblings, to language, to land, to food, to culture. And the schools did that. They broke those ties. And we've also know that in the 1950s, the US government engaged in a program of relocation. They encouraged indigenous peoples to leave their native lands and move to cities, again, with the intent of breaking ties to land and disrupting culture. Now, much of this history has been and still is invisible to we non-Native nations peoples. But I don't know if you've looked at our order of service in detail lately, but we do have a land acknowledgement at the bottom of that order of service. And the land acknowledgement movement began as a way to raise awareness that First Nation people are still here. I'd like you now, if you don't mind, to pull out your order of service maybe, or if you're using the online, to take a look. And if you don't, I'll read our land acknowledgement aloud to us. We remember that we are gathered today on the occupied territory of the Massachusetts and Pawtucket peoples. Who have stewarded this land for generations, and that our early church financially benefited from, our minister and members enslaving African adults and children. That land's kind of hard. I don't know how you all feel, but that's a hard statement to read. And in the last decade or more, more and more entities have begun acknowledging who lived on this land, who cared for it and loved it before the arrival of the Europeans. This was a step long encouraged by the indigenous peoples. Land acknowledgement, when done well, brings these Native nations back into visibility and public awareness. But as the years have passed since this movement began, a new movement has gained ground that asks the question, what is possible beyond land acknowledgement? Is land acknowledgement performative, or should it maybe have greater substance? The website of the Native Governance Center that is located in Minnesota addresses these questions, and their response is, quote, instead of spending time on a land acknowledgement statement, we recommend creating an action plan highlighting the concrete steps you plan to take to support Indigenous communities into the future. Similar to a land acknowledgement, your plan will include information and research on the land you occupy, but it will primarily focus on action. Is it wrong to write a land acknowledgement statement? No. But if you do, your statement should highlight a strong call to action and action steps. It should encourage your audience to create their own steps too. Their publication, Beyond Land Acknowledgement, a Guide, offers suggestions on what these specific steps are that we could take. The first step, which you might not be surprised to learn, is to research, to learn about the history and the culture of the people whose land we occupy, so that it's not forgotten, so that it becomes visible to us and to the broader world. And once this has been done, once we know who was here, then we need to plan what those steps would be to support those people who've been dispossessed. One suggestion they make is something that they call a voluntary tax, or you could call it rent, for land that can be paid directly to local Native Nation organizations, like, for example, in our area, the Natick Praying Indians or the North American Indian Center of Boston. they suggest that when deciding on what this voluntary tax or rent would be, that we look at what we spend each month on our internet, live streaming services, and the like, and maybe use that as our guide of what would be an appropriate amount. Another suggestion they make is that when we're in an election year, that we look for representatives at the state and federal level who support Native nation sovereignty. They suggest that we contact the Native nation near where we live and ask them about what ballot initiatives support their needs. They also go on to suggest that universities and other institutions that have benefited from land grants and other programs that stripped Native nations of their lands, that they need to engage in this same discernment work and research of their history. They too need to make and implement a plan to make amends. These are just a few examples of the many that are in that guide. And if any of you are interested, I am very happy to connect you up with that and other resources to help you learn more about the Beyond Land Acknowledgement movement. On this Indigenous Peoples Day weekend, I need to remind us of why moving beyond land acknowledgement is so important. The effort to strip Native nations of their sovereignty is not restricted to our history, but it's actually an ongoing problem. And while the boarding schools for Native nations children no longer exist, states are still removing these children from their homes and putting them into foster care with non-Indigenous families. In many cases, this is a policy founded on the same reasoning that motivated creation of the boarding schools. And we also need look no further than the Dakota Access Pipeline for another example of why this is so important. The US government, the Army Corps of Engineers, had created a plan, and that plan had the pipeline that was going to move crude oil to the market. The pipeline was supposed to cross the Missouri River just north of Bismarck, North Dakota. But the community objected, and they said, hey, what happens if there's a leak? What happens to our water? What happens to our health? What happens to our lives? And so the Army Corps moved that pipeline plan, and they routed it now through Standing Rock Sioux Reservation land, endangering their water and their health. The US government, in doing so, acted in violation of treaties with the Standing Rock Sioux and effectively took tribal land and gave it to a private corporation. This move also, as I said, put the health and safety of the Standing Rock Sioux at risk, as well as endangering cultural and natural sites. When we as Unitarian Universalists talk about upholding the value of pluralism, we are recognizing that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We are also called to promote equity by declaring that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. This is who we are, and we need to be mindful of that as we are engaging with the idea of beyond land acknowledgement. As the great Maya Angelou said, when you know better, do better. I encourage us all to look into the beyond land acknowledgement movement, to do the work of understanding why it is so important, and to create your own individual action plan. Our treatment of the people indigenous to this land has been truly shameful, and now we know better, so we must do better. May it be so. Please rise in body or in spirit for our final hymn, Lift Every Voice and Sing. We're going to sing just the first two verses. I'd like to let you all know that this hymn is also known as the Black National Anthem because it was first performed as a poem by 500 Black children at the segregated Stanton School in commemoration of Lincoln's birthday on February 12, 1900. It gained popularity after being set to music, and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People adopted it as their official song. Please rise in body and spirit. Words are on the screen in your orders of service and at number 149 in the gray hymnal.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun, our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when home unborn had died. Yet with the steady beat and not a weary feet, come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that the tears has been watered. We have come treading our path with the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast.
Good morning, everyone. Emily LaPierre, the engagement coordinator here. As we near the close of our service, let me share with you some of our upcoming events here at First Parish. Sign up for the Bell Notes e-newsletter on uuneedham.org or read this week's edition in full right now through our online order service at uuneedham.updates.church. All are welcome to our social hour both on Zoom and in the parish hall following the postlude. This Tuesday is our very first Lane Lyceum of the year at 7:30 p.m. It's called Overview and Discussion of the 5 Massachusetts November Ballot Questions with Carol Patey. Election Anxiety into Action, Managing Stress and Making a Difference is on this Wednesday, October 16th at 7 p.m. Vespers is also back on Thursdays at 5:30. Creative Escapes on Fridays at 10:30. Next Saturday, as Beth said, we have our Homegrown Coffee House kicking off for this year. Next Sunday, the 20th, the senior youth group will be selling soup for lunch to take home as a fundraiser for the service trip in April. Caregiver support group is also next Sunday at 1 via Zoom. Also next Sunday is Needham Multicultural Festival from 1 to 5 at Needham High School. That should be a great time. A little bit further down the line, we have a memorial celebration for the life of Fred Crace on Saturday, October 26th at 2 p.m. And save the date for martial training on Sunday, October 27th at 11:45 in the sanctuary. We also now have a poetry box that has been beautifully constructed by Amy Chikala, which is out on the front. We have a little red folder that is outside of the office that you can place your poems inside of that we can start putting out there each week. Go have a look and please contribute your favorite poems, and thank you to Amy. We always extinguish our chalice with words, promising to carry its flame in our hearts until we are together again, no matter how long it is until we are all together again. Please join me from home or here in the building in saying these words written by UU Minister Reverend Elizabeth Zell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you.
I love it when I forget to put things into my script. So our benediction will be short and sweet. Let me just channel a little chill right now. I'm grateful that you are here with us today. As you go back out into the world, please carry with you in your hearts the memory that we are all here together and we do have communal responsibility for one another and for this land. Please go out and do your part in acknowledging where this land comes from. And now our postlude.
I wanted to sing this postlude in honor of all those affected by hurricanes, especially in my home state of Western North Carolina. In my mind, I'm going to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? And ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm going to Carolina in my mind. And Karen, she's a silver sun. You best walk her away and watch it shining. Watch her watch the morning come. A silver tear appearing now. I'm crying, ain't I? Going to Carolina in my mind. There ain't no doubt in no one's mind that love's the finest thing around. Whisper something soft and kind. And hey babe, the sky's on fire. I'm dying, ain't I? Going to Carolina in my mind. In my mind, I'm going to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? And ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm going to Carolina in my mind. Dark and silent late last night, I think I might have heard the highway calling. Geese in flight and dogs that bite. And signs that might be omens say I'm going, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. With a holy host of others standing around me. Still I'm on the dark side of the moon. And it seems like it goes on like this forever. You must forgive me. If I'm up and gone to Carolina in my mind. In my mind, I'm going to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm going to Carolina in my mind. I'm going to Carolina in my mind. I'm going to Carolina in my mind.